What if I told you that the oil brand doesn't matter nearly as much as you think, but three specific habits separate engines that die at 120,000 miles from engines that cruise past 300,000 miles? I just spent 2 months tracking down owners of high-mileage vehicles, analyzing their maintenance records, and interviewing mechanics who've torn down both failed and successful engines. What I discovered completely changed how I think about motor oil. Today I'm showing you the real patterns that determine engine longevity, which expensive mistakes cost thousands while saving pennies, and the three simple rules that actually work based on real-world data. Let's get into it. Here's how I did this research. I contacted owners through online forums, Toyota Nation, Bob is the Oil Guy, high-mileage Facebook groups, and asked one simple question: if your vehicle has over 200,000 miles and runs strong, what oil do you use and how often do you change it? I collected 50 detailed responses with maintenance records. Then I talked to 5 mechanics in my area who've been rebuilding engines for 15 plus years and asked them what they see when engines fail versus what they see when engines last. The results shocked me, because the pattern that emerged wasn't about brand names or synthetic versus conventional. It was about 3 specific behaviors that showed up in every single high-mileage success story and were missing in every single premature failure. Let me start with what doesn't matter as much as you think. Brand loyalty. I found engines past 250,000 miles running Mobil 1. I found engines past 250,000 miles running Walmart SuperTech. I found engines past 250,000 miles running Pennzoil, Castrol, Valvoline, and even conventional oils changed frequently. The brand variety was massive. There was no magic oil that guaranteed success. But here's what did show a pattern. Every single high-mileage success story, all 50 of them, followed 3 rules. And every engine failure story from the mechanics broke at least one of these 3 rules. Let me show you what those rules are. Rule number 1, change interval discipline beats brand quality every single time. This is the pattern that jumped out immediately. The high-mileage vehicles weren't running the most expensive oils, they were running whatever oil they chose on strict conservative schedules, without exception. A Toyota Camry owner with 287,000 miles ran Costco Kirkland Signature Synthetic, a budget brand, changed every 5,000 miles like clockwork for 12 years. Never missed, never stretched it, the engine runs perfectly. Compare that to a mechanic's story about a BMW with 94,000 miles that came in for a blown turbo. The owner had been running Mobil 1 premium oil but changing it every 12,000 to 15,000 miles because synthetic can handle it. The used oil analysis showed the oil was cooked, the turbo bearings were destroyed, premium oil changed too late, failed faster than budget oil changed on time. Here's the data point that matters. Of the 50 high-mileage owners I surveyed, the average oil change interval was 5,200 miles. The longest interval was 7,500 miles. Not one person was pushing 10,000 or 15,000 miles between changes, regardless of what the oil was rated for. They were changing oil conservatively and consistently. The mechanics confirmed this from the failure side. When they tear down engines that died prematurely, the number one commonality is extended drain intervals. Not wrong oil, not cheap oil, extended intervals on any oil. So, rule number 1, pick an interval between 5,000 and 7,500 miles and never, ever exceed it. The brand you choose matters far less than the discipline you maintain. Rule number 2, match the oil to your actual driving conditions, not the marketing. This one is subtle but critical. Every high-mileage owner I surveyed understood whether they were in normal service or severe service based on their actual driving, not what they wanted to believe. And they chose oil and intervals accordingly. Here's what severe service actually means. Short trips under 10 miles, frequent stop-and-go traffic, extreme temperatures, towing, dusty conditions, lots of idling. If 2 or more of those apply to you, You're severe service. Most people are severe service but think they're normal service. A Ford F-150 owner with 312,000 miles explained it this way: I tow my camper 6 times a year. That makes me severe service even though most of my driving is highway, so I use full synthetic and change it every 5,000 miles, not 7,500. I'm not taking chances. Compare that to engines that failed. A mechanic told me about a Honda CR-V that came in at 87,000 miles with severe oil consumption, burning a quart every 800 miles. The owner had been following Honda's maintenance minder system, which was telling him to change oil every 9,000 to 10,000 miles. But his driving was all short trips in cold weather, severe service. The oil was breaking down from fuel dilution and moisture contamination faster than the system predicted. The piston rings were carboned up and stuck. If that owner had recognized his driving as severe service and changed oil every 5,000 miles with quality synthetic, the engine would still be healthy. Instead, he's facing an expensive repair at less than 100,000 miles. Rule number 2. Be honest about your driving conditions. If you're severe service, admit it and adjust your maintenance accordingly. The oil doesn't care what you think. It degrades based on what you actually do. Rule number 3. Use quality oil but define quality by specifications, not price. This is where it gets interesting. The high-mileage owners weren't all using expensive boutique oils, but they were all using oils that met or exceeded their vehicle's specifications. And they verified that by reading labels, not by trusting brand reputation. A Subaru owner with 268,000 miles runs Costco Kirkland Signature, full synthetic, about $25 for 5 quarts. He showed me the bottle. It carries API SP certification, meets Subaru's specifications, and gets changed every 5,000 miles. The engine runs perfectly. He's not paying for Amsoil or Royal Purple because his engine doesn't need boutique chemistry at 5,000-mile intervals. It needs oil that meets spec changed on time. But here's the flip side. A mechanic showed me a failed engine from a European car, a VW with a turbocharged engine. The owner had been using cheap conventional oil from a big box store because oil is oil. The problem? That engine required VW 500 2.0 specification oil with specific additive chemistry for the turbo and direct injection system. The cheap oil met minimum API standards but not VW's spec. By 110,000 miles, the timing chain had stretched, the turbo had failed, and the engine needed a rebuild. Using the correct spec oil would have cost maybe $200 more over the life of the vehicle. The rebuild cost $6,500. Rule number 3. Check your owner's manual for required specifications. API rating, ILSAC, manufacturer-specific specs like Dexos or ACEEA. Buy oil that explicitly meets those specs. You don't need to buy the most expensive oil on the shelf, but you absolutely need to buy oil that meets your engine's requirements. Now let me tie these 3 rules together with a real-world example that shows how they work in combination. A mechanic told me about identical 2015 Honda Accords that came into his shop within the same month. Both had around 120,000 miles. One needed a full engine replacement. One was running perfectly and just needed routine maintenance. The failed engine, owner used Castrol GTX conventional. A budget oil, but not terrible. Changed it every 8,000 to 10,000 miles based on the maintenance minder. Drove mostly short trips in city traffic, severe service conditions. The oil couldn't handle the contamination load at those intervals. By 120,000 miles, sludge had clogged oil passages, the timing chain had stretched, and the engine was done. Total cost to repair, $5,200. The healthy engine. Owner used Mobil 1 synthetic, more expensive than Castrol GTX. But here's the key. Changed it every 5,000 miles without exception, regardless of what the maintenance minder said. Recognized that short-trip city driving was severe service. The engine had 122,000 miles and looked internally like it had 60,000 miles when the mechanic inspected it during a timing belt service. Zero sludge, clean valve train, strong compression. The difference wasn't the oil brand, it was following the 3 rules: conservative change intervals, honest assessment of driving conditions, and using oil that met the engine's specs. Now let me address the question everyone's asking. So which oil should I actually buy? Here's my honest answer based on everything I learned. If you're going to change oil every 5,000 to 7,500 miles religiously, a quality, full synthetic that meets your engine's specifications will serve you perfectly, regardless of whether it costs $25 or $60 for 5 quarts. At short intervals, the performance difference between mid-tier and premium synthetics is minimal in real-world results. Costco, Kirkland Signature, Walmart SuperTech Full Synthetic, Amazon Basics Full Synthetic. These store brands meet API and ILSAC specs. They're contract manufactured by major oil companies, and they work when changed on conservative schedules. I found multiple engines past 250,000 miles running these budget synthetics with zero issues. But, and this is critical, if you drive severe service, or if you have a turbocharged engine, or if you have a European vehicle with specific oil requirements, step up to brands that explicitly meet those higher specs. Mobil 1, Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, Valvoline Advanced, Castrol Edge. These oils have the additive packages and specifications for demanding applications. And if you want absolute maximum protection and you're willing to pay for it, oils like Amsoil Signature Series, Redline, Royal Purple, or Motul deliver measurably superior chemistry. But you're paying for extended drain capability and extreme condition performance. If you're not using those capabilities, if you're changing at 5,000 miles in normal conditions, you're overpaying for performance you're not exploiting. Here's the framework I use now after this research. Match your oil quality to your change interval and driving conditions. Short intervals plus normal driving? Budget synthetic works fine. Extended intervals or severe driving? Step up to premium. European or high-performance vehicle? Use exactly what the manufacturer specifies. No substitutions. And always, always prioritize change interval discipline over brand name. The most expensive oil in the world fails if you run it too long. The cheapest synthetic on the shelf succeeds if you change it on time. Let me close with the number that crystallized everything for me. The average cost difference between running budget synthetic changed every 5,000 miles versus running premium synthetic changed every 5,000 miles over 100,000 miles is about $400. The average cost to rebuild an engine that failed from neglected maintenance is $5,000 to $8,000. The math isn't close. But here's the bigger number. The average cost difference between changing oil every 5,000 miles versus every 10,000 miles over 100,000 miles is about $600 in oil and filter costs. The engines that made it to 300,000 plus miles in my survey spent that extra $600. The engines that failed before 150,000 miles saved that $600 and paid $6,000 in repairs. The expensive choice is the cheap one. The cheap choice is the expensive one. So here's what I'm doing with my own vehicles now. I'm running Costco Kirkland Signature Full Synthetic in my daily driver because I change it every 5,000 miles without exception. I'm running Mobil 1 Extended Performance in my truck because I tow occasionally, and that qualifies as severe service. And I check my oil level every month, I monitor for leaks, and I keep detailed records of every change. That's it. No magic, no secret formulas. Just discipline, honesty about driving conditions, and oil that meets specifications. The 3 rules that separate 300,000-mile engines from 120,000-mile failures. If this research changed how you think about motor oil, hit that subscribe button because next week I'm breaking down transmission fluid myths, specifically whether lifetime fluid actually lasts or quietly destroys your transmission. You need to see that data. Drop a comment with your current oil and change interval. I want to hear what's working for people in the real world. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.